Welcome back to another episode of Duel with myself, Alicia Solomon, and Megan Hines, where we discuss everything the challenge. We are back to discuss episode 5 of World Championship, the Global Championship, I should say. And this week was very spicy because someone decided to not let their foot off of one person's neck, a steroid ass neck, but they didn't decide not to let go. And I love it because please press your foot a little harder on her neck. We got to get her out of here. I'm loving it. Press a little harder.
Well,
Mimi was like, hit her for me. Hit her again. Like, that's what I would hit her again, please. Do it for me again.
we're gonna get to that in this episode, but we're gonna start this off with Jody and Benhat being the last Argentinian team standing, and they really do want to see things change in the game. Darrell said he didn't want to stick out so early in the game with different decisions. Emily and Grant, they were bonding through their lines with Danny and Sarah, and they were talking about how it's been good for them so far. And then Grant also noted that Kiki could get pulled in different directions, doesn't know where she stands with them, but but him and Emily have really been pulling strings for him in Australia, for the Australian team, lately. So it's just where does Kiki fall with what their plans are for them. And we get to Wes and Jordan having a chat about who to target next, with Wes still kind of wanting to say the same names and Kelly and Tristan and Jody and Benha, but they're like, hey, if one of them go home, we gotta have a dark horse team to start rumors about and get them in the arena. And Jordan brought up the rift that the Australians had of Kiki, of her being on the outside of that, and he really wanted to exploit that to break them up.
I mean, it's the only smart thing that Wes said this episode because he really said some dumb ish and kind of led Zara to the pits of hell this episode. But I would say that, you know, this the Wes and Jordan deciding to get together, they're smart because they need to do that since that the other side and the MVPs are like, hey, we need to get Wes and Jordan out. Like, so both sides are plotting against each other at this point, even though it's early. They're still now in getting like a groove into the game and they're understanding, hey, now we have to start making some moves. It's just whoever strikes first is the one that's going to get the upper hand. So Wes and Jordan making a plan, I'm not surprised, but I know they don't want to see each other in the final. So ultimately one's going to, backstab another person and then we're going to end up wherever we are. But in terms of Wes and Jordan colluding with each other, it's not surprising.
And it's only gonna get them so far. Like they can be besties or whatever for now. That's like how like Wes and Bananas had their um counsel with one another on Total Madness. It's kind of similar to that a little bit with like Justice like limited time little plan to save their butts against everybody else. And then speaking of everybody else, Danny told Sarah that one of them needs to win, and he hoped that the USA and Aussie teams would take control. And Sarah said that the Legends were kind of scared to play the game. I think I misheard what she said a little bit, but to me, kind of made sense because they're just playing for control, and nothing's really sticking, at least with the Legends. Like they're just getting out like the weaker players, not strong players, because they're all working together. But I feel like what Sarah was trying to say is like Legends are trying to play a game that's very scared. Like they don't want to see each other in the final, but like they're not making moves to get one another out. And it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, the MVPs are not scared to make a move, and the Legends are not wanting to show that they want to make a move, essentially. This is why we get the Vet Alliance every single year for the past couple of seasons in whatever iteration of the show that we watch, is because they all get together. They say, hey, we're just going to get the rookies out. We're going to get the people who are the weaker players out. And we're just going to go ahead and get those people out so that we can get to the final. And it's like, one, that's boring. Nobody wants to watch that continuously, season after season. But two, every single time y'all try to play this game, it ends up happening where somebody has to get the short end of the stick, and it depends on where they fall in the Vet Alliance ranking, which is why I like Jody stepping up and deciding to, stand for herself along with Kellyanne, because you just don't know where fall in that alliance when it comes to those legends and how they run their game.
Yeah. And I feel like with some teams right now, they're kind of like middle ground. Like Darrell and Kiki are middle ground in a sense because they're not as involved with the Australian group. And Darrell has acquaintances with the legends, but like he's always at the bottom of their totem pole. So they're not worried about him. So it's just like we have like those different pockets of how the house is. It's just like, okay, one side gets it, one other side makes it, cool. But it's always that middle group that kind of surprises people. And I think even though last year I was like, oh, bro's like not wanting to make a lot of like big moves now, like him kind of being Switzerland in a sense right now, it's fine. It's just when's the right time to actually make those moves, and that's what he always tries to do. But whenever he never gets a chance to, because he always gets the short end of the stick when it comes to those big alliances. And Justine told Casey about how dodgy Ben was on the USA season and how like that kind of panned out for all that group, and she knew that he was flip floppy. And then Ben told Bananas that he isn't trying to get caught up in what Sarah and Danny got going on. He's just really trying to play his own game. He wants to be selfish. And he said he played a straightforward game. And I'm just like, is it straightforward or is it just a little shisty?
I'm gonna take Shiesty for 500, Alex.
Yeah. Because it's like you say you have loyalty to yourself, which I get. But if you come in and you're cool with people, like we saw on the USA show, like he was loyal to Sarah, then Angela was like dangling things over his head, not physically actually, but like he was like saying appealing things. The same thing's happening with this season in a sense too, because he's partnered with Casey, who is just telling him, okay, let's just sit back and see how things are. We're at the bottom total pole on both of your end, so we're just going to see how this plays out. We might skate through. That doesn't work all the time.
Yeah, I feel like Ben is just really showing that he's not loyal to anyone but himself. I know that that's what he said essentially, and it's true. He does not have a side that he wants to work with essentially. Like once he betrayed Sarah last year, they even showed the montage of him braiding her hair and they, being all close because they were on Survivor and all this other bullshit. And then all of a sudden he turned on her when Angela decided to present him with an opportunity. And then we had what happened last season with the Ben versus Sarah. So I think that Sarah, rightfully so, came in this season being hesitant in playing a game with Ben. Justine was a little bit more optimistic, but honestly, once he does it once, I feel like he's going to do it again. And especially someone coming from Survivor, I'm not going to trust his game plan moving forward if he already does what he did. You know what I mean? Like he already played his game. So we know what we're going to get with him. And of course, now he has the legends behind him and he has working with Casey, like we mentioned last week. Casey is a part of that whole Vet Alliance crew where they just sit back, try to breeze through and get to the finals, and then look at each other and be like, "Oh my gosh, whoever wins the finals is whatever." Like so he's just trying to ride that coattail, and that's not going to get you very far if you don't have the numbers. That's what he's forgetting.
Yeah. And that bit him in the ass during deliberation because he got clocked and I was like living for that moment. But before we get to all of that, we're going to the daily challenge, which was called Flying Around. But before they even did the challenge, they had to drink a smoothie that was very foul tasting to help them cool down from the hot weather. They had to drink this smoothie for 2 minutes without throwing up, and they would get a 5 point penalty for not finishing it at all, and a 2 point penalty if they threw up. And then in the actual daily, one person would be harnessed on the arm of a spinning contraption and have to catch strings that the partner throws at them to attempt to land them in a container in the middle of the field. The team with the most strings will win, while the team with the fewest will go straight to elimination. And this was disgusting.
Yippee. Yippee. I don't
Ugh.
know what to say. Like, yay.
Yeah. So in Heat 1, we had Justine and the Bananas, Zara and Wes, Janae and Grant, and Tristan and Kellyanne. And Wes had this bright idea to not want to drink their smoothie, in which they took the 5 point penalty because he was like, hey, we'll just knock out the rest of the points. Sir, that was not the right plan.
Not at all. He definitely underestimated everyone else finishing the drinks, and then he overestimated how well he was going to do in the ring toss at the second part of the challenge. So that's all it was. It was just very misguided. And honestly, finish your food when you have it in front of you. Like, that's just the bottom line here. It's just don't try to give yourself shortcuts because you don't know how that's going to affect you in the long game. And he
Yeah.
definitely was like, well, too bad.
Well, Rocco. So everyone else completed their smoothies, and Grant got the first ring into the container, but Anna and Justine had the most rings for their group with 15 points, and Wes and Zara ended up in the negative, more of like -3 with theirs. They only got two, and it was just bad.
Yeah, I don't even know how they even finished that low. Like, they really just didn't do anything in the second part of the challenge.
Yeah, I don't know, like and it wasn't it didn't look that hard. Granted, people struggled a little bit, but once you get a rhythm, you're good. Like Benez and Justine, they had a good rhythm going with the throwing and making sure the timing was right to catch it. So that was really the best of it thus far. But running into Heat 2, where we had Sarah and Theo, yes, and Emily, Ben and Casey, and Jody and Ben Hango. And my first question is, why was Casey in the harness?
I don't want to get canceled. I was gonna say some crazy stuff. You know what? I was gonna say something really crazy, but since this is live, I'm just next.
All right.
Next.
um, Theo and Sarah, they got a 2 point penalty for throwing up, so they had a less advantage, but it don't even really matter with them because they were um tied for the top of that group. They had 8 points along with Yes and Emily. And Yes was just making fun of Wes because he was like, you done fucked up now. Like, all of us are doing decent with this. And then you just do nothing on top of not drinking your drink.
Yeah, I think everybody was just happy that him out of all people was the person who did worse so far, because he was probably the main target of a lot of people. And honestly, it's whoever gets last is the person that they're looking at to see, like, who can they throw in to go into the elimination. And he just made it easier for half of the house in their strategy in wanting to get him out of the house.
Yeah, so we go to the final heat with Darrell and Kiki, Amber and Troy, Danny and Tori, and Jordan and Kaz. Kiki really chugged her smoothie, and Darrell was saying that it made him look like a MF Punk, and I'm like, all right. I had a moment.
I love Darrell. He was so real. But I mean, Kiki again, she just shows that she's like here to play. She won her season of the challenge. So she has that on her resume. So she's ready to go. And he was just like, wait a minute, slow down. Like, I gotta catch up. Like I'm not there yet. And she was just like drinking it like it was water. And I was here
Yeah.
for it.
And Amber said she was feeling sick for the past couple weeks, but she was trying to show up for a partner. At this point, like we know in real time that Amber is pregnant. So I feel like she was getting those like little symptoms at the start of this. So I don't know how she ends up doing the rest of this show, but just those signs alone, I'm like, okay, we know.
Yeah, I'm confused at the timing because she announced her pregnancy on the reunion was last year, damn near. So it wasn't even, early this year. So I'm interested, like the timing of her announcing her pregnancy. I don't even know how far along she was when she announced it, but it was definitely it was definitely that. But I know that they test for pregnancy. They probably test beforehand and not during the show. So that can also be a conflict. But it was definitely something was happening with her because she was the only person, and Troy was trying to motivate her. Troy was like, it's a $500,000. Like, let's get through it. And I understand why, because Troy is trying to win. So I just felt bad because just could not fit. Like, she was just throwing up.
Yeah. And she also didn't finish it, so they had a 7 point -7 points on their docket. So they just had to try and get something to shake. And Kiki was also, in the words of Darrell, doing fucking bullets at him with these rings, and they were both in a good rhythm, and they are at the top of their group as well. The bottom teams for this challenge were Ben and Casey and Wes and Zara. And because they were in the negative, Wes and Zara are going straight to elimination. And the top teams were Darrell and Kiki and Bananas and Justine, which Darrell and Kiki got the edge and they won this daily.
So happy to see it because I'm rooting for Dawn and Kiki, of course. I'm rooting for Justine as well. Love Justine. I don't want to take away from her, but half of her partner can go to hell. So I would rather Darrell and Kiki to win.
Yeah, I was like, because Justine is not going to show no quit. Like, she's going to power it through and she's going to show up when she needs to show up. It's just that random banana that we got to deal with. If they had won, this vote would have gone different.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Because one of who Bananas is trying to protect, to his relationship with Wes being at the bottom, he is probably going to listen to him more in who he wants to have thrown in. Of course, that may influence the House and their votes, but they didn't win. Terrell and Kiki
Yeah.
won, which means now
Mm-hmm.
Team Australia has an opportunity to take control of the votes. And we see how that went.
Yeah. And before that, Jordan said he was plotting to put the Aussies in the pool for nomination. And Danny also saw it as a perfect opportunity to put Jordan in. Because this is what he's been wanting. He's been wanting either Wes or Jordan out. Perfect opportunity to put Jordan in that nomination pool to go in against Wes. And that was really the case that they wanted. They wanted Jordan and Wes with each other. And they were trying to pull and put someone else in that middle. We'll get to that in just a bit. And then Bananas did say it was stupid to say the same names, and he was on board for also voting in two other of the Aussie teams. And Danny's strategy said was, hey, let's put in Jordan and Kaz and an Aussie team just as a smokescreen. And Grant would say he didn't mind being a smokescreen for them because he was like, if I go in, hey, I get to take out. He didn't really say it, but that's what I got the vibe of. It was like he gets to take out a big guy. it is what it is. And Danny told Ben that he didn't really give a crap of what Tori would want at this, because like he appeased her last week. This week it's his time, and he really was like, "I'm really on it. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna do, and you're not gonna tell me what to do."
Okay, which I respect because last week Tori definitely bulldozed that whole deliberation when she voted, and so he sat there and ate it, and he let her rock. And this week, I feel like Danny took control of the situation and the partnership, which he absolutely should. And it was just funny to see the dynamic of how literally half of each of the teams on USA and on Australia too a little bit, like they're just really, it's half of a team, and you really see how it's really just individuals just trying to coexist, not even play with each other, but literally coexist with their partners. And Danny and Tori is a prime example. Danny has his own plans, Tori has her own relationships and her own plans, and they're just trying to coexist because at the end of the day, they're still partners, and the money is going to be split between these two people. So it's not like they can win without each other. So they can't, cut each other's noses off to spite the face. Like they have to play their games with each other. But one trying to appease one week and one trying to appease the other week, that's not going to work long term. So somebody's going to have to compromise a little bit more than the other. And I don't think Danny is letting up. So I'm interested to see who is going to be that person to let up first.
Yeah, and then Kellyanne and Jody were talking about this alliance of sorts of working with bananas. And Kellyanne was like, I'm thinking about it, I'm debating on it. And Jody was very wary about it because she don't trust bananas. And she has a hunch that things won't go great for them because they're gonna be at the bottom of the totem pole. And Kellyanne also did say she wasn't gonna hesitate to vote for Johnny and Grant. And then Johnny was like, "Hey, I think I may have a hunch that I'll be going in."
Yeah, and which Emily was like, "Oh, I don't think it's gonna be you." By the way, Emily and her whole face was annoying me this episode. Just something about her is just a little off. I get the whole Kiki component of it where she pretty much double crossed Kiki the first episode and made her out to be a pawn in her game. And her game was similar in the Australian season. So she's just a little like questionable to me. Like I really don't like her. And why are your lips chapped on TV? Like I just don't get that part of it. It's just like, ma'am, don't come on TV with your chapped lips and just trying to talk down to people. I just don't like that. But because that just blew my, like, her lips are as white as her face. Like, girl, what are you doing? Like, there's no Vaseline in Australia, none, no Blistex, no Carmax, nothing.
No, no.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, I just think that Janae trying to say like, oh, she's gonna be the vote. Yes, it's you. Like, I don't know why she and Grant will volunteer themselves to be a smokescreen, quote unquote, because at the end of the day, she and Grant is a strong team. Nobody's trying to take y'all to the final. And I think that's where John A got the game and the politics messed up in the situation because she's trying to pretty much leverage how she's played in the All-Star season where she's had strong players. Most of these relationships, like yes, like Duel, like Kellyanne, other people who have been on the All-Star season with her, they've been playing the game with her and she's been able to have these friends be on the same side with her. But at the end of the day, nobody wants to take you to a final. You just won. You've been to the past 3 finals. Girl, nobody's really like your name is hot in the streets. Like nobody's trying to mess with you. So yeah, of course nobody on USA is trying to talk to you, trying to talk game to you. They don't want to talk. Of course nobody is trying to like your your name is sizzling out here, ma. You're fajitas. Like get away. You feel me? Like you gotta go.
Well, and that's how the cookie crumbles when you come back and you on a hot streak. So we get into the nominations, and Johnny and Grant kick off the vote for Jordan and Kaz, and they also throw a vote at Sarah and Theo. Jordan and Kaz, they also start off the vote for the Aussie groups, so they voted for Emily and Yes, and Johnny and Grant. Kellyanne voted the same as them. Bananas continues that vote as well for Emily and Yes and Johnny and Grant. And the vote got to Sarah and Theo. They voted for Amber and Troy and Johnny and Grant, which I think because the vote for Amber and Troy was the kickback to what Amber and Troy did last week. And then Jody and Benham voted for Jordan and Kaz and Johnny and Grant. Ben and Casey voted Johnny and Grant and Yes and Emily, to which we saw Danny look up like, what the fuck did he just do? Like, we all saw Danny's face.
Yeah, because that was not a part of the plan at all. And I don't, and you see, even see it in Tori's face a little bit too. Tori was just like, what's going on here? Because the plan was to vote for Jordan and Katz, and everyone seemed to be along with the plan until it's time to actually execute it, and then nobody is a part of the plan. And we get Ben and Casey whispering in the corner. So Grant is now questioning what's happening between that conversation, and it just starts to spiral. Like, I feel like once we got to Ben and Casey, it was like, all right, this is where we see where the actual alliances are aligned. And here we go.
Yeah. And Troy had heard what Ben cannot whisper, I guess, because he heard
No,
that
he
Ben
didn't
was.
whisper it. He didn't whisper it. That's the thing. Like, Ben and Casey were whispering, conspiring in the corner. Grant was like, what's going on? Like, why y'all whispering? What's y'all being shady? Like, stop whispering. Speak up. We can't hear you. Pretty much speak up to the class. And Ben was like, no, nobody's whispering. Like, we're just you talking and basically just try to throw something out there so he doesn't look suspect, and basically say, well, you're talking about Troy. And it's like, we didn't see Grant and you whispering. We saw you and Casey whispering. So were you whispering about Troy? Like, what was going on there that he had to throw Troy's name into the mix, trying to get him off your back? And Troy was like, listen, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here dealing with the hands that I got. I got two hands and they sit right in front of me. And the hands that was dealt was that you motherfuckers go with it. So he voted for Grant and Johnny. He voted for Jordan and Cass. And I really fuck with Troy because at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? Like, you're trying to throw me under the bus, you're trying to throw me off my game, essentially, and make me try to second guess my decisions moving forward. Like, I just didn't get that from Ben. And Ben is super shady, like we've already mentioned. So it's not surprising that he did something like this.
Yeah, and I'm just like, it was like really weird. Like, of my, yeah, sure, Troy might be at the bottom of what Australia got going on, but that has nothing to do with you. Like, you are not making moves. So why are you talking greasy in the corner? Like, that's not your job. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, he was definitely jumping across borders. Like, please, your passport is for the USA. Keep it over there. Like, we don't need you tampering.
Child. And so you like you said, Troy and Amber, they put their vote on Johnny and Grant and Jordan and Cass. And then Emily and Yes, they put their vote on Jordan and Cass, and also put their vote on Ben and Casey. And I was like, yes, stick it to them. I was living for that little moment.
Yeah, because what is going on here? Like, it was definitely needed.
Yeah. And then, oh, also Sarah did call Ben volatile. I just I wrote that in my notes. Like she called him volatile. I'm like, it's showing
She
signs.
She explained him well where he gets paranoid to the point where he second guesses himself and he goes against what he already knows, but it's basically him just overthinking and becoming paranoid and just blowing it all up, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. And then we got to Tori and Danny's vote. And she laid out the land on what they should do. And she was trying to force Danny's hand. And I'm just like, ma'am, what we not gonna do is bulldoze this once again. And she had to pay that line of like, I will help you save your ex fiance. Are you dumb? If my ex fiance was in this game with me, I wouldn't give a care. I don't care. We are not together. We are not friends like you and Jordan are. Leave that out of this. We don't care. And the way he looked at her too when she said that, I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, who cares that is your ex fiance? Nobody in this room cares. Leave us alone. Think about it game wise. You can't do that. You always put things together. And that's what happened last year, and that's what's happening right now. And we don't need it in this season.
No, and we literally just went through this on season 38. So it's really unnecessary for us to go through Jordan and Tori. But I just really found it so funny that she tried to lay it out and she was just like, well, we're at a stalemate. This is what we're going to do. And I'm not going to vote Jordan in. And Danny was like, basically, girl, fuck you. I don't care. And that's what we're not going to do. So you better not say anybody's name because we're going to have a problem here. And I was like, Danny, I love this energy. Keep it
Like, yeah.
going. And then she doubled back on him and she tried to be nice about it too. This funny thing. And she really tried to be a little cute about it. She was like, if it was your ex-fiance, I wouldn't vote him. Like, I wouldn't vote the men. And Jordan looked so happy when she said that because, of course, she has his back. And Danny looked at him and her just like, so why don't y'all just go get married and get out my face? Like, essentially, why are y'all here? Because at the end of the day, this has nothing to do with their game. And last week, Tori got her way. They said Kellyanne and Tristan's name again. They said the names that they said again, and that was that. This week now, Danny was like, listen, I'm not about to keep playing these games with you because you're not about to run this partnership. Like, I have a voice, I have a say, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this 50-50, or we're going to do this not at all. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened because Danny just went and just said some other names. He was like, well, I'm not doing it. So I'm going to vote for Ben Hine, Jody, and Kellyanne and Tristan. And everyone was like, are you serious? And Danny was like, yeah, I'm serious. Like, yeah, that's it. So what happened?
It is the fact too, like he's already peeved about what Ben did. So he's trying to process that and then try to figure out, okay, how am I doing my vote? I was like, in this moment, I'm like, don't vote on Ben. At this point, he could do that too. But that wouldn't have helped. So not the team's odds. But him just burning the vote on those two teams and the vets being mad. Chef's kiss. Give him his
So mad.
chance.
Johnny was like, we've never played the game like this. I don't know what to do. Everyone's popped and panicked. Once they show that reveal upstairs and Darrell and Kiki is like, what does this mean? Zara's like, are we playing chess? I'm not sure what's going on here. Wes is like, well, whose bright idea was that upstairs to do that? Everyone is so confused because, listen, we're not going to play your little vet games. Like, we're going to play the games that we want to. And at the end of the day, we're going to figure out, hey, you got your alliances, I got mine. So who's going to move first? And it's not going to be me. And I love that it was Danny putting his foot down and saying, listen, I'm not budging because he could have definitely folded. But you know what? When you're a real one, you stand 10 toes on that and you don't fold. And I love that for him because honestly, she needed that because she's been running around thinking everything is sweet and easy. She has other people as her partners around who, of course, side with her and they're going to agree with her game plan. But Danny don't know her and she don't know Danny clearly. And I love
Yeah.
that. I just love it. I loved it.
I was like, get her, get Jade, because listen, this is I don't want to say this, but you know I support women's wrongs and rights, but there are some women that just be off, and that woman is off.
not not on the last day of Women's Women's Month. Yo, this is
I'm sorry.
ridiculous. Not the last 2 days of Women's Month. You like, man, fuck this lady.
Hey, but
Yo,
I've had this sentiment for a while. It just happens
some of
that
you,
we are in Women's
some of you
Month.
women need to take your.
But it is funny
Yo,
though
that's crazy.
that Grant was like, it is funny though that Grant was like, fuck shit, Tori. And I'm like, get her, Grant. Get her. They was jumping them legends. And I'm like, I love to see it.
Yo,
I
they
love to
really
see
jumped
it.
Shorty together collectively. They really jumped her because Grant was like, fuck you, man. I don't know what you're doing. Tori, suck shit. And then Sarah doubled back down on it with mocking Tori in her engagement. Danny doubled back again and was like, girl, we not voting for how you want to vote. So what you finna do? Johnny's over here getting his whole little uh hands in a
He's
bunch,
throwing
like
a
he don't know what to
tantrum.
do with himself. A full tantrum, like
Throwing
y'all
a
not playing the game. Jordan and his one hand throwing another tantrum, talking about y'all wanted to play the challenge. This what y'all want to do. All right, well y'all come to play the challenge, and it's just a whole mess. Listen, I was here for it this week. It was just so freaking entertaining, bro. Like
it is and it's not like you play the
we need this
challenge
on the main
one
show.
way. We do. We don't play the challenge just one way. If you do that, it gets boring. And we've seen that time and time again. But these MVPs, they have heart. They have ambition. They have give me another good word. They have the audacity. That's the other word. They have the audacity
Yeah,
to really go
they
at
have
these
the
legends,
audacity.
and I love it. Oh, and this is a different
Facts.
side of Dane that we didn't get last season. I love it.
No, we didn't get this far because by the time we got to the final and everybody quit. So really it was just Danny alone getting to the final and finishing, but we didn't really get enough airtime of Danny having his gameplay being shown. This is the reason why he was on Survivor. Like he knows exactly what he's doing. So kudos to Danny.
I don't know what the heck that Ben did on Survivor, but he don't know what he's doing. If he gonna use that as a meter, because Danny and Sarah are outselling him. It's just facts. Um, and then like since we got a stalemate, everybody's in a tizzy. Kiki is talking to Amber and Troy, and Troy let it slip to Kiki that it was Emily who threw her out as the pod the first week, and she's like, "What? Oh yeah, that was you. Yeah, that was her. She did that
Yeah.
to you."
Yeah, I feel like Kiki, Darrell, Amber, and Troy are two of the same teams. So we've seen how Amber plays her game in the seasons and how the vets treat her. And I feel the same way happened. Amber's won a championship. And I feel the same way with Kiki in her relationship with the Australians and Emily and Grant treating her like she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not loyal. She's this, she's that. Bottom line is, she's a champ. She won her season and she's playing the game how she wants to play it. And it just doesn't appease you. And that's fine. But you don't have to look at her as her being fake or an airhead or dumb. Like, they were just doing a lot between Emily and Grant and talking about Kiki. And I feel like Amber and Kiki are like the same in how they are in their respective countries. And then Darrell in the same way Troy is, because honestly, Darrell is cool with the other side, but he's still on the bottom of the totem pole. And Troy is the same way. Like Troy knew the plans, but he's still on the bottom of the totem pole because we clearly seen the deliberation would happen. So there are two teams that are reflecting each other. And I'm just glad that Darrell and Kiki won this week, because if Amber and Troy would have lost, it would have been another story.
Yeah. Um, and Sarah did also say that Ben dug his grave and he pissed the Aussies off. Um, and then we go to the arena and we get our losers, obviously Wes and Zara. And TJ said that they all failed to use democratic process, so he invoked the stalemate process for rule. So he gave Kiki and Darrell the power to choose who was in Zara's face, and that was a cliffhanger for this episode, which I didn't mind it actually, because there's
I
a lot
kind of
going
did.
on.
I kind of did, because it was just like it was getting so good that I wanted to see the rest of it. Like I just at that point I wanted to see who Darrell and Kiki were going to choose, at least who they chose. I didn't have to see
Yeah,
how it ended, but at least showed me who they chose to go into the elimination, because that would tell me everything I need to know going into next week again. Because if Darrell asks Wes who he wants to go in, I'm gonna be like, all right, Darrell, now you really like playing around, because you have an opportunity to put somebody else down who can get to, like get him out of here.
yeah.
And I just want to see that game plan moving forward.
Yeah, I just didn't mind it because like we had a lot of build up and like y'all didn't give us a lot of time to get to that last part. So I was like, okay, cool. But the drama was at its finest, and we'll see who was picked next week. But that's how the episode ended. This was amazing. um And yeah, we're gonna get into the tweets from the week, but we're gonna start off with our favorite new segment, Kiki retweets. Okay, that is coming from Miss Kiki McCrae. Every week she's been tweeting about the show, and I've been loving it. We've been loving it. So we're gonna get through some of her tweets, and then we'll get through the tweets that I also saved as well. So the first tweet from Miss Kiki. As a really real OG challenge fan, I love seeing people finally shake things up a bit. It's not too early. The attempt was right on time. They said, "Hey vets, we want the smoke. Here for it."
Here for it.
And then, favorite part of the episode was when Danny said his vote. Bah! Ooh, that was a whole lamb. And that's what she said. I'm reading this verbatim, okay?
Oh my gosh.
I screamed. Stalemate was a win in my book. He didn't get his way, but he didn't back down. And that's what we love about Danny. Like he's gonna stand on what he says. And is y'all gotta deal with it.
That's facts.
Next week, they ate this episode up, and I'm ready for them to sweep up the crumbs. Next week, it is a photo of Sarah and Danny.
Come on, dustpan. Like sweep the crumbs up. I love it.
Second of all, can we get a moment of silence for Kiki? She's killing every challenge, but duh, she's a Kiki. I'd expect nothing less.
All
Love real,
right.
recognizing real. Okay.
All right. All right. I love both of them, but come on now.
Yeah. It's cliche, but it is what it is. It's interesting to see the reactions of people after decide to play and not just vote in easy pairs every time. Like, are you having a fit about it not being that serious? Seems serious, bro. That sounds like a
It
shot
seems
of
very
bananas.
serious.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the one who was whining.
Yeah. I was so shocked to see that Wes and Zara didn't complete the drinking part and it was Wes's idea. Like, what was that legend advice?
Yeah, it was, and it was legendarily stupid.
Yeah. Not Sarah and Emily reenacting Tori and Jordan's engagement, production adding in actual clips of it, and Justine laying there like my name Bennett and I ain't in it. I didn't
Yeah,
even notice Justine.
that was the funniest part. Justine, like I said, Justine is like a ninja in this situation because she's literally playing both sides and she just has a front row view of everything that's happening. So when Danny and Sarah are plotting, she's right there. When Bananas and Tori are plotting, she's right there. Like she's just there. Like, and I just love it because she's playing the part that she needs to play. But Sarah and Emily had me cracking up. I'm not gonna lie. Like they were really going in, and Sarah just really read her down. Like from
She was,
chapter one to fucking the end. And I was here for it. Like she was just like, girl, if this is what you want to do, get off the show.
yeah. I can't vote for you ever. Like, ma'am, leave.
Yeah, I
And
loved it.
Kiki's last tweet. Lastly, I'm not mad at the cliffhanger. I mean, I was going to tune in either way, but now I might watch it as soon as it's available because I need the tea. Boy, we do as well.
Yeah.
And that's the end of Kiki retweets, a segment that we love to laugh and concur with. So,
Yeah.
thank you,
So
Kiki.
thank you, Kiki, for the entertaining tweets. And absolutely love this episode. It was really a gem. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching this episode just because Danny blew it up and it was just really amazing to see how everyone had egg on their face, especially Tori and Jordan and Bananas too, and even Wes, because Wes came down and was like, well, who shit the bed? Listen, don't worry about it, sweetheart. You are just still gonna be a loser. So it doesn't
Yeah.
even matter.
Wait, before we
But
fully end it, I still got some more tweets to get to. We just wrapped up
oh,
Kiki's part.
Megan. Megan,
I'm
come on.
sorry. I'm just gonna pick a few, and that's gonna be it. Okay, but I want to get to Danny's tweet because you sent me one of the tweet, and I sent you a version back.
Okay, just get to
'Cause,
that one.
okay, he was like, "Who do you think told me that we shouldn't run a final against Jordan?" Someone said Wes, and then he replied, "My partner."
It's getting messy. It's getting messy. And I love it because
Yeah.
it's probably the truth. It's why her face was looking real stale when she was freaking listening to Ben and Casey do their vote along with his face because he was confused. So I feel like it's just a lot of lip service going around between her and the rest of the crew and trying to figure out how she's gonna parlay these relationships. But at the end of the day, Danny's not standing for it. So that's all I'm really here for. I'm waiting to see the rest of the cliffhanger next week and how that plays itself out and how the dynamic actually shifts in the house because this will really just set the tone for moving forward and whoever wins and loses and pretty much everybody knows the cards that they want to play now and we kind of get it split down the middle. So I'm excited to see that. uh Thank you guys for listening. You can follow us on Twitter if you would like at Dual Lines Pod. You can follow Megan at Megan Hines. You can follow myself at ace_s5. And you can follow us on YouTube at Dual Lines Podcast. We'll be back to continue on talking about the World Championship Globals next week. We have a little special guest coming back and we're excited. So thank you guys for listening and enjoy your week or your weekend, wherever you're listening. Bye.
Bye.